sort of there was a mentor for me that hung around the Improv. His name was Uncle Dirty. And Uncle Dirty, remember, he was a guy who ran around with Richard Pryor and George Carlin back in the Village Gate days, the days when they were down in the Greenwich Village doing stand-up comedy. And Dirty was a little older. He was older. I didn't know exactly how much older he was at first. I just knew he felt like he was in his 40s. We were, late 40s, and we were all like our late 20s, right? But he had these great, he'd party with us, and he'd do drugs with us and drink, and he had these great little things he'd say. I remember we'd sit in the back of the room, we'd watch acts, and an act would go on stage, and Dirty would evaluate him. He'd go, he's funny, he's got more material, he's got a possibility to go to distance. Then another act, he goes, audience doesn't like him, but he's got great material. He could become a comedy writer. Then somebody else, he goes, the audience likes him, but he has no material. He'll become a game show host. Then he'd say, this guy, the audience hates him, and he has terrible material. He'll become an agent. And he always had these things to say. I remember, and this happened, when this actually happened, when Joe Piscoe became part of Saturday Night Live, it was kind of shocking in our community in New York City. Nobody thought that he was going to become part of what we thought was the hippest show on TV at the time. This is 1981. So people were kind of shocked by it. Everybody thought Rick Overton or Gilbert Gottfried did become part of the cast, but everybody thought Rick Overton was a slam dunk. He was really funny and did sketches and characters. But we were sitting around complaining one night, and Uncle Dirty came by and he heard us all complain. He says, "It's show business. Accept injustice or kill yourselves." Which I like that. Then everybody, big time back then, a big decision back then in the late 70s and early 80s was when to move to Los Angeles. There was really nothing happening in New York City. So people were like, when am I going to go? When should I go? When is it right time to move to L.A.? And Uncle Dirty says, you move to L.A. when they tell you, Moisha will pick you up at the airport. I like that. So Uncle Dirty, he would do these gigs with us. And he was always good to me. I mean, he's always good to me. I remember Mike McDonald, a friend of mine, Canadian comedian, told me one time, because you don't know how people feel about you a lot of times. You're just doing it. You don't know. We weren't the kind of comics to go up to each other and say, I love what you're doing or whatever. If the respect was noted, they might take notes on your act and give you a joke thing, which meant to me they were watching your act and they liked enough to actually bother to maybe make a suggestion how you could do something better with a joke or something like that. But Mike McDonald said, you were on stage one time talking about me, and he said, we were sitting back in the room, and Uncle Dirty turned to him and says, the kid can dance, which meant I was up there hustling as hard as I could go, and it was a big compliment to me, and I always loved hanging out with Dirty. And in fact, the first time I got to Canada, and I did the Yuck Yucks in Toronto in 1980, in the spring of 1980, they asked me who else should they bring up there, and the first guy I said was Uncle Dirty, and I came up there with Uncle Dirty when he worked that week, and I worked with him, and it was like we had fun hanging out. So we did this one-nighter in Jersey. Now, Uncle Dirty's act felt old. I mean, if I go out and work at a comedy club now, they don't need the comics, the young audience do not need to know. In fact, if I had a screen in front of me and they couldn't see how old I was, they would know that I'm of a different generation. Because the way I do comedy is the 80s way that I learned, and it's different than it is today. It's even more conversational today than was then. So Uncle Dirty had an act that was tied to that time. It felt like somebody from the 60s, the early, mid-60s, late 60s. So sometimes he wouldn't do so well. And we went out to do this Jersey gig. It was one of those bars in Jersey, just tough, guys who just couldn't get it together to go into the city. They were just drunken, nasty Jerseyites, And the kid who was the MC, he really just bombed, and he brought Dirty up real abruptly with a bad introduction, and Dirty went up there and they started heckling him, old man, heckling him. And I saw, it's like watching a guy that's like an old fighter when they just snap, like they just took too many punches and they come out of it, and he just started a flurry of like nasty put downs, like just the worst. Yeah, the best part of you dribbled down your old man's leg. Just stuff like that, man. The stuff that just the Jersey ones were, hey, we like that. I mean, he got real down, real dirty. I'd seen, Uncle Dirty. We called him Uncle Dirty. He called himself Uncle Dirty, but by our standards, he wasn't even dirty at the time. He didn't even work dirty. So this, all of a sudden, I saw him actually work dirty. I mean, like 60s toilet dirty, man, just nasty. But he killed him. And this is what I love. Instead of bringing the MC back up who'd already proven to be incompetent. Dirty got at a height. He got 10, 15 minutes killing him, and he goes, "You're going to love this next guy," and he brings me right up. He brought me up instead. So he passed me baton real clean, and I went up and killed. When I came off stage, Dirty had already scored the drugs for the ride back to the city, you know. As we're going back to the city, for whatever reason, Dirty gave me his wallet, and I looked at his wallet, and he was born in 1932, which is the same year my dad was born. And I went, I was getting the approval from Dirty that I was not getting from my dad at the time. And it really meant something to me. I go, this is, you know, I understood the connection a little bit better just in that moment. And he just died a little while ago, and I just wanted to shout that out to Uncle Dirty. That's all.